Today we will be working on wet felting. To complete this project, you will need the following items: roving, a bath towel, a tea towel or muslin, bubble wrap or a Ziploc bag, and a bowl or spray bottle full of warm, soapy water. I am working on a plastic folding table. Even though I'm not too worried about it getting ruined, I still put down a towel. If you are working on your family's dining room table, you will definitely want to put down a couple of towels. This will help absorb the moisture. And maybe some towels on the ground too if you tend to get a little bit messy while you're working. Once your towel is down, place your bubble wrap on top of the towel. If you are using a Ziploc bag, we will get to this in a little bit. Now we prep our roving. For wet felting, we will be working with small pieces. To get these pieces, gently tug on the end of the roving to remove a small piece that is roughly 2 inches long. You will need several of these to get the sample done. After you have your roving prepped, it's time to lay it out. When you lay all of your pieces of roving out, they sort of look like roof shingles. You lay each piece flat against the bubble wrap and overlap them by about 1/2 inch. You will notice that in this layer of roving, all of my fibers are oriented in the same direction. For the next layer, you will be placing your roving perpendicular to the layer before it. This structure helps strengthen and lock the fibers. You will continue overlapping your roving by about 1/2 inch, just like the row before. Once you have finished your second layer, on to the third. This layer of roving will be oriented the same way as your first layer. Once you have your 3 layers of roving, it's time to get to work. Sprinkle your roving with warm, soapy water. The water is what helps your roving felt. I start with a modest amount of water, but I do add quite a bit as I continue to work. It's just not featured in this video. I start with a little bit and add as I go as a way to keep my workspace a little tidier and less wet. Place your muslin or tea towel on top of your roving and begin rubbing it with the palm of your hand. Work the entire piece. Don't forget the edges, and work in all directions, gradually increasing the pressure of your hands. Continue working on your fibers for about 5 to 10 minutes. After about 5 to 10 minutes, peel back your towel and check the process of your felting. You can see mine is starting to come together, but I still have a long way to go. I flip my soon-to-be felt over, add more water, and continue rubbing. After I have worked my felt for 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to change things up a little bit. Take your bubble wrap and roll it up tightly along with your sample and then rock it back and forth. Do this for about 30 seconds. To check the progress of our sample, we do a pinch test. Simply pinch the fibers of your sample to see if they pull away from each other. You can see mine are still pulling apart, so I still have some work to do. I roll my sample up again after flipping and rotating it. It is important to rotate your sample as you work, so you work the fibers in multiple directions, encouraging them to stick together. I kept moving between rubbing my sample and rolling it. All in all, it took me about a half hour to get my sample to pass the pinch test. You can see here with my sample that your whole sample may not be done all at once. Your edges might take a little longer, or there might be a part that's a little thicker. Don't worry, just keep rubbing and rolling. Once my sample was good to go, I rinsed it in hot water. This is so the sample can open up and I could rinse the soap out. After I rinse it in hot water, I shock it with cold water to get it to shrink back up. After rinsing, I roll my sample up into a ball and that's right, throw it onto the table. Do this about 30 times. This will help all of those fibers lock into place. Once you've done this, hang your piece up to dry. You have finished felting. The cool thing about felt is that it doesn't fray, so feel free to cut your piece into whatever shape you like. The plastic bag method is the same, only a bag replaces the bubble wrap and the muslin. Start by layering and wetting your roving in the same way, and then transfer it, which can be a little tricky, into the plastic bag. Then begin agitating your roving in the same way. I did notice that with this method, my roving would get a little bunched up. If this happens, simply reach in and adjust it before you get too carried away. From time to time, do a pinch test and add a little more water to your sample. Once you have rubbed your sample for several minutes, start rolling. Just like with the other method, roll your sample for about 30 seconds, rotate it, and continue rolling. Another pinch test. Mine still needs a little more work. Once my piece is ready, I rinse it in the same way, and then I throw it on the table. Our second felt sample is now complete.